All right, hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm here with my co-hosts, Matty B and Rick David. So it looks like we actually lost Matt right as we went live, so we'll go ahead and give him a second. I did have the mailbag first, but I'll wait for him to see if he gets back on. Rick, what do you have for high tempo this week?
Mine is mostly the NHL Stanley Cup just started, so we had game one. I know we're going to talk more about later. But I think the reoccurring theme I see in all major sports right now, and you saw it last night too, was I don't know if referees have whistles, or if they just don't know how to use them. So it seemed like in the third period of that game, they were pretty much letting everything go. But Vegas definitely won, so they were better teams. So, but I'll let us talk more. But that's mine right now. That Vegas is winning and could be the first expansion team ever to win a major sport. So,
and they looked good. I don't know if I was surprised Washington didn't have as much energy. It seemed at the first part of that game. I watched that instead of the basketball game, but. I mean, it's something that we're going to get into later in the show. I just don't know if the Caps can match up with them at all. But it looks like Matt's back. Matt, what do you have for high tempo this week?
Actually, just want to send some congratulations. Both the men and women's baseball teams of Florida State advancing to the College World Series. Thought that was a pretty cool thing. Spring sports doing well for the Noles, so keep up the good work, ladies and gents.
Yeah, I saw NC State is hosting a regional down here, and the ACC, I think, are hosting 4 of them. Big Ten actually got 4 teams in this year, which is kind of surprising. Normally they're on the low end just because of the location of the conference. I think it was, I'm probably going to watch this. I want to say it was Purdue, Indiana, Minnesota, and Minnesota's hosting, and Ohio State. So I hope I'm right there. But NC State's the big one here. I also saw, I think I sent it to you guys, ESPN put out their graphic for the tournament, and they had the regional hosts in the wrong state. They had all the North Carolina teams labeled in Virginia on the map. And then they had all the South Carolina teams labeled in North Carolina on the map. Like, you can't have one intern that knows where the states are located. And it's not like it's crazy names. I could understand not knowing where Clemson is, Matt. But North Carolina and North Carolina State, you put in Virginia, the names are right in the name of the team.
They put them, but they did put them in the appropriate locations. It's like when you do a Word document and you mess with the type. You try to stick a picture in and it just formats wrong and you're just like, screw it, and you send it in.
They had the wrong padding. It was just too high. I don't know what else. That was just crazy that they didn't have one guy to proof that, because it was basically just a state recognition thing. But I'll dig into our mailbag. I was actually going to lead off with this, but since we had some technical difficulties, we'll see if we go through. We have a voicemail number, which you can text. I've been checking it. We got a couple messages this past week. Our number, if you want to leave us, you can text it or call us, 412-330-1512. You can go ahead and message us on there. We got a voicemail. I'm just going to read it because I didn't want to blow up the stream. The first voicemail was crazy because it definitely wasn't for us. It was, hey, we got a second chance to let you know that you have a visit tomorrow that we're going to cancel due to non-confirmation. So thank you very much for leaving that voicemail after it clearly says in the voicemail, you've reached Southbound Sports. That's the greeting. So they thought maybe we had a thing on. I actually got I got a text. This one's aimed at me, I believe. Says, you are an idiot if you want Ovechkin to win a cup. So, classic. Way to add to the discussion. And I got that a couple over the weekend. I actually hung out with Jeff, who does Spaces or Laces during the football season, and he was saying the same things. As a Penguins fan, why would you want Ovechkin? But I don't know. We'll get into that later in the show. And Matt, I think I got one other one. This one's for you. It's from a girl, Nikki. Spells her name with 2 Ks, so you know she's hot. It says, I live in your street. I'm looking for a sex partner. So here's a picture. I guess if you're attracted to me, I'll be talking to you soon.
I think Mrs. Bilchak will have quite an issue.
So after the show, I'll forward you that message, and you can tell me what you think. But if you want to leave your own voicemail or text us, the number is 412-330-1512. You can also email us at contact@southboundsports.com. So you can go ahead and get that there. We already did high tempo, so if you're watching on the video board, a little bit out of order, but we're going to get into the Steel City update. Our big topic is going to be Pirates, so I'm just going to give a fill-in overall on the team and let Rick talk about any roster stuff before we get into the game yesterday. Pirates right now doing bad. They're on a 2-8 skid in their last 10 games. They were in second, haven't moved at all. I don't think they probably got one win since the show last week, I think. They're in fourth right now. They're still above 500. It just seems like the team's falling apart. They're under 500 on the road. And if you want to make the playoffs, you got to win on the road. And they're not getting it done. So, Rick, you have any updates on them?
If you're an Austin Meadows fan, you got to be loving this. He's now currently hitting a 420-25 currently, and at this, and had another home run today. So and a double. So he's had that so far. Don't know why Sean Rodriguez plays. I think he's currently dating Clint Hurdle on the side. I'm not sure. But I don't know why a 178 hitter keeps playing every day. And David Freese and Joey Cora argued in the dugout yesterday, which actually was the most excitement I've seen in a while. So, I mean, I don't know what's happening. They can't hit the ball. And apparently coaches and players are yelling at each other. And I don't know why we don't peg Anthony Rizzo, or at least brush him back, or give him hot feet. I'm not sure why we don't, but we just rolled out the red carpet for him and let him continue. Clint Hurdle's I think he's a weak manager in that way. Remember McCutcheon used to get hit all the time, and we would never retaliate. And then remember the time that Greg Brown called the Diamondbacks Bush League, and then Tony La Russa pretty much challenged him to a fight, and then Greg Brown apologized for the comment. So, I mean, just weak-minded. I mean, at least you got to send the message. I mean, they got to think they have one up now because they beat you yesterday. They're going to beat you today. And you're just letting, rolling out the red carpet. I don't get it. And I don't get how Joe Madden wasn't thrown out either that game. He freaking cried too much for me. I would have thrown him out.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. The team's falling apart. We knew it was going to happen. It's not even June yet. I figured it would happen in June or July, something right before the trade deadline. And to think just 2 weeks ago, there were people complaining. I think someone was talking to us on Twitter saying that we should put more support behind our guys and not focus so much on nutting. But it's coming full circle. Matt, good thing for you. Cardinals are still hanging around, same. Central, the middle part.
It's looking like the wheels are about to fall apart for them as well. Marcelo Ozuna just jammed his left hand sliding into second. He's down. Ooh. So they could be without another starter here for a while. He's being checked out by the training staff. Hopefully that injury isn't going to be long lasting. But that could definitely be an issue for them with already having Molina out for an extended period of time.
Yeah, definitely.
And the other thing too with the Cardinals, look at how many injuries to the pitchers. Reyes, Martinez, Wainwright, Holland, Gregerson, Bowman, Leone. That's 7 guys that were pretty much opening day guys, except for Reyes. Outside that, we're all opening day rosters. So 6 out of 6 out of both your rotation and your bullpen are now injured. So it's not looking good for them at all.
Yeah, the whole division's a mess. You have the Reds, who are so bad, they're propping everybody up. And to be honest, giving everyone a fighting chance to make at least a play-in game. I would think the second team in the Central has a chance of clinching at least one of the wild card spots. But that remains to be seen. I don't think the Cubs are that special, watching them play here against the Pirates. But it's still early, and they're not that far removed from a World Series win. And you never know how well that can carry a team once they have that under their belt. Going ahead to Penguins, I don't really have anything other than watching Fleury just keep winning in the playoffs. So it's actually nice to see him win compared to watching him kind of just get annexed by the team and sent away and nothing really happens to him. So Vegas, they got a good one, and he's showing it. Anything else you guys want to add for the Penguins?
Phil Kessel trade rumors keep popping up, so I don't know what's going to happen there. I mean, I think listen to more during the draft and see what the Penguins do there. It seems like they always have a draft trade. It's always there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Phil Kessel's not back next year.
Yeah, there is a lot of smoke around him. How long is he signed through? Do you know, Rick?
I think he's still got 2 or 3 years left on that contract.
Yeah, so they're not in a hurry to push him, which makes me think that the organization is kind of sending these out to try to see who's interested in trading for him. He showed up pretty well in the playoffs, so it's not like he was one of the ones that was really hurting the team from what I can remember. But I don't know. Maybe they're thinking they can do something in the draft to help alleviate some of those depth concerns elsewhere on defense.
And clear his salary out of there, which will help against the cap and get another key defenseman. Yeah. They need key defensemen.
They definitely need defenders. So
yeah. And the problem with the Penguins is the capitalization. Watch me use a bunch of words here. Capitalization of Vegas doing well and the Penguins doing terrible was the fourth line. And look who scored the goals last night. It was Reeves and the fourth line guys won the game for Vegas. Something you would only play Reeves for, 3 minutes of a game? That was their big trade deadline trade last year, if you remember, was Ryan Reeves, and they would play him 3 or 4 minutes a game. Gerald Gallant.
That was because he could barely skate. They just had him just down there as goon cleanup.
You skate him, put him right in front of the net, and don't move him. He's a big guy to move out there. So, I mean, they're using his skill where the Penguins couldn't use his skills. I mean, I kudos to Vegas, and the Penguins screwed up massively there.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything they could really do, though. I mean, you can't, what were they going to do instead of letting him go?
Could have kept him. I mean, they should have kept him and played that fourth line more. That's what killed them. They were using that first and second line way too much, and they should have played the fourth line more.
Yeah, that's true. They definitely didn't have the depth. But hopefully they can address that with some youth through the draft and just get ready for next year. See what happens. Now on to the NFL with the Steelers. Seems like everyone's playing nice, at least in the quarterback camp. I know that has been like the drama for a while with Mason Rudolph and Ben Roethlisberger. You know, the talking points, trying to get people all worked up. But that seems to kind of have settled itself. I think the team, mostly everyone has reported for the voluntaries, I think. Don't know about Bell's contract stuff. I still don't think he'll be back to play until season starts, unless there's some developments I missed, but that seems to be...
He did drop his rap album.
Oh,
he
God.
He has it out that he wants to be the villain. He wants it to be where he wants to isolate himself so that when he finally leaves Pittsburgh, he can say that the city wasn't behind him and didn't support him and this and that. But, I mean, the bottom line is play. If he can show in a non-contract year that he can play a whole season, he's arguably the best player in the league. Arguably. The only issue that I have with him right now is that he can't be healthy for a full 16-game season. He's always banged up with a hamstring or some kind of lower body injury. And part of, I think, the issue with that is all the preseason shenanigans. If I'm not going to play, I'm going to pick and choose when I'm holding out, I want more money. Well, you got to be healthy to get the big contract. You don't get a big contract and then miss half the season.
What do you think? Do you think that's based on his style of play, those injuries?
I would say that I almost want to say that it's a conditioning thing, because if you're getting those reps with your team, then maybe it helps you to avoid some of the potential issues. Like, I don't know. It just seems like had he been in camp and getting those reps with his team, that maybe his conditioning's better, and it leads to him not getting injured. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I had the same vibes last year whenever he came in. What was that, the first and second game? He looked awful. And you knew he wasn't working out on his own. I mean, you can work out. You can say you're working out, but I mean, we all played sports. You know you're not going to be 100% working out if you're by yourself. Like, it takes a real dedicated mindset to do that. And just based on what he's done in his professional career, he just doesn't have that mindset. Like, that takes a real special guy to be able to do that. And whenever he comes in, it seems like he's, I don't know if he's not really coasting, but he's kind of just like extending. I don't know if he's trying to extend his career that way by cutting out some of the hits in practice, some of the preseason stuff. And we'll see if it pays off for him. I don't know. Until we see it, it's going to happen yet another year. We should be able to tell this year what's going to happen. Is he going to be forced to another team? If he starts slow again, and you're given some of these running backs, Steelers have been drafting running backs every year. So it feels like they're going that direction where they're going to cut him. So, I don't know. Rick, you have anything to add?
No, kind of the same exact points. I mean, if he doesn't come in ready, they may not use him at first. Or they may do splitting like most teams are doing now. Instead of where Bell takes 90% of the carries, maybe it's down to 65-45. Or 65-35, So it's something like that. So may cut him to him that way.
I'm curious to see how the NC State product pans out at running back. I think that puts a little bit more pressure on Le'Veon Bell to get back and to perform at a high level. If during the preseason, Connor and what's his name?
Samuel.
I can't think of it. Yeah, if one of the two of them can show that they can at least carry part of the load, I think that puts a little bit of pressure on them. I look back to Antonio Brown when Emmanuel Sanders was still here and was pushing for the big money contract. Brown just stayed low key, kept working, and he got offered the big money before that pushed Sanders out. I think if they're even within the team, you have the mindset of produce and the contract will come. Get the stats, it'll come, but you got to be there. You got to be there to put the work in. I don't think that he's shown with his off-field decisions that he's 100% in.
That's where I'm at. Whenever you're performing and your team's been so close, I think ESPN did their predictions, and they had the Steelers as the second best odds to win the Super Bowl next year behind the Patriots, and slightly above the Eagles. I think points-wise, they had them even, but for some reason, they gave the edge in the Super Bowl to the Steelers for number 2. I just don't know how you can be making that prediction when you don't know how the locker room is going to be. Because locker room is a key part in the NFL. Look at how the Eagles' locker room didn't fall apart when Wentz went down. You got to know that that's a reason why they performed so well in the playoffs. How many other starting quarterbacks have went down, and the team, you could just hear in the locker room with the guys like, wow, well, we lost our guy, even if it wasn't a quarterback. Oh, so-and-so went down, so you know that we lost a key part. We're going to be missing something in the playoffs. You never really heard that from the Eagles. Only the media even tried to dog him, and they dodged all those questions. So you knew they were confident in the locker room, and you have to have that. And I just don't know. It's never worked when you had a villain. I don't know. Can you guys think of a team? If you go back, what team has had a villain and been successful?
The only team that really comes to mind is the Bengals, and their history just doesn't pan out with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can make the argument that Moss was the villain the year the Patriots went undefeated, but they still lost the Super Bowl. He never won a Super Bowl, so it's not like there's been another high-profile villain out there. Same goes with T.O., Chad Ochocinco. Unless Chad won one with the Patriots, but I don't think those guys won Super Bowls. they kind of all floated around different teams there at the end of their career. But those were the most divisive guys in the locker room for many years. And it was usually a receiver thing. Now you're having a running back do it, and we all know running backs don't last long in the league. So is it worth having that extra headache? We'll see after this year.
I think that's where some of the issue is the fact that you're saying he's a running back, but he wants to be paid as a wide receiver so that he can make more money, and saying that the things that he does out of the backfield should warrant that extra pay.
Well, that's where Samuels did that for NC State. So it is going to be more of a one-to-one comparison. If that's what the Steelers like out of their backs, they got a guy that can catch the ball. So they drafted him on purpose. So we will see this year. I mean, the Steelers are going to make a decision. It's pretty much written out. Unless, let's say, a Ben Roethlisberger retirement shakes things up, I think they make a decision on that running back. And like Matt said, maybe we have to wait till preseason, see how Connor and Samuel shows up and what happens. But I definitely think that you're going to see a decision this year. Now, I'd like to take a turn. We're going to keep it football, but I just wanted to give a shout-out to hero Jason Seaman. I'm going to go ahead and read his story here because it wasn't getting a lot of media coverage last week. There was a school shooting in Noblesville, Indiana, and he was a former football player for Southern Illinois University, the Salukis. I'm probably butchering the names, but he was a defensive lineman for all 4 years, 07 to 010, and he helped break up the school shooting. I don't know if he was by himself. I think 2 people got injured. He took 3 shots, but he single-handedly ended the tragedy. Mm-hmm. And last I heard, he was in stable condition. So I just wanted to give a shout-out to him because it's a shame the only time these pick up in the news are whenever they're negative stories. And we don't normally cover things like this, but I definitely think that it ties in. Football player, he's a team guy. We always talk about how football molds people into better teammates. He's going to give his all. That's what he did. Had to protect the kids. So it was a touching story. Definitely hit hard. And so I just wanted to give him a shout out on the show and make sure that his name was out there. And I think I retweeted the stories as they were coming out on Twitter. So you can follow us there on S-Bound Sports. But let's go ahead and change it and go from into a little bit of an anger topic, the Dirty Rizzo slide. And Rick, you mentioned it to start off the show, so you want to go ahead and fill the listeners in if they didn't see it?
Well, if you watch a video, bases were loaded. The play was to home off the play, so it was Mercer to the throw home to Diaz. You could clearly see on the video Rizzo's running in the grass down the third baseline, and then he took out Diaz. The throw goes in the outfield, 2-run scorer. According to the Major League rules, he is wrong. The play, you have to go towards the plate. If you watch his slide, his hand doesn't even tag home plate. And if you watch quickly enough, too, the play is already made. Diaz steps forward, so the play is already an out. Then he throws it. So, I mean, the play is there. Cubs, I'm not going to say this, but you got the second biggest crybaby manager in the league who will cry for calls and cry for everything. You saw him out of the dugout twice, whapping his hands. I mean, umpires need to take control of the game. They screwed up the call. New York screwed up the call when they went to the headset. You throw out Hurdle, which was the right decision. He did argue the call. But also, Madden's out there throwing his hands around. Sorry, are you arguing the call or why are you out here? And if you tell him go and he's still yelling, you got to toss him too. I mean, there's no reason for that. That's actually delaying the game. I mean, they want to talk about pace of play. That's what the problem. It's stupid managers coming out here and talking and giving their life story to the umpire. No, get rid of him. And Rizzo should have been thrown out there too, because if you remember the A-Rod play where he slapped the glove and they actually called him out, and that's actually the same thing. They should have thrown him out too because it's intent to injure. I mean, I understand the Buster Posey rule. They want to keep players healthy, especially their big stars. The problem was 3 things. Cubs have a bigger market than the Pirates. That's obvious. Pirates, New York knows that. So does everybody else. It was Diaz versus Rizzo, bigger star, big Rizzo, so you got to keep him in the game. And New York screws, and the Pirates don't protest a call. I mean, we talked about this off the show. They should have. Tom Prince should have came out and said, "Okay, we're protesting," so the umpires have to make the piece. So when they switched to call today, the protest should have been upheld, and there should have been some concession in this game, like a restart, which has happened in games before, or something else. Something else saying, "Hey, this game gets replayed on another day," like a double header type. We're going to finish out the game as a. But I don't understand. These umpires in Major League Baseball, I said, are terrible. They're beyond terrible. Too many calls are getting reversed nowadays because they have no idea what they're doing. And the other thing is, it's too easy to watch how 1990 you couldn't see how bad the umpires were. You had to guess because you don't have the digital areas where you could see the strike zone. You could super slow-mo a play and see that guys are out and safe. The problem is the umpires have no control, and when they want to take control, it's usually when they're so wrong, it's terrible. So, I mean, there are too many videos. If you ever have time, you go on to YouTube. Last year, you could type in a month, like August 2017, player ejections. You should see the reasons why players get ejected. And half the time, it's all wrong on the umpire because they miss strike calls, they miss calls, they call the play wrong. I mean, umpiring needs to change. And Angel Hernandez for suing the league, you should type in Corey Nebel versus Angel Hernandez in the YouTube and watch where he calls a dead center fastball a ball. I mean, terrible call. Cubs are winning again today. Pirates should have still plunked Rizzo, and I don't understand why we don't protest more games.
Matt, what are your thoughts? I know you were the one that sent it first.
Well, I thought about it, and initial reaction to it was the baseball purists see it as part of the game, and it is what it is. But I think across all sports, you're looking at trying to keep the player safe, and that type of play is exactly what's going to cause issues down the road. What they have to do is the league should step in and should fine them, suspend them, do whatever they need to do to show that they're at least willing to put the things in place to keep people safe. And I don't think that they're doing that. They're allowing plays like that to happen, similar to some of the cheap shots that you see during the NHL playoffs, where they're going to pick and choose when they're going to call a penalty versus when we're just going to let them play. I don't agree with Rizzo sliding. I mean, at the time that play happened, the Cubs were already up 5-0. So it wasn't like we were looking at a 1-0 game or a tie game in close to extra innings where this is the deciding run or the deciding play. You're already cruising at this point. So there was nothing else to be gained by taking them out. And I thought that was the thing that, more than anything, big leaguing them, already up 5-0 and then piling on, because that definitely resulted in extra runs. I think he should have caught one in the ribs.
Yeah, I thought about this too, and I'm kind of just disappointed overall in the way Major League Baseball handled it, because I know with those new helmet rules we talked about like last week or 2 weeks ago, NFL is going to have the same thing happen, because you have a play that happens fast, and you have an ump who makes a call within a split decision. And that happened. There was 1 second he makes the call. He's watching to make sure, number one, he tags the bag. So he's not watching where the runner's sliding. You can't tell me that he was. I've umped some games for like Pony League stuff. It's hard to even watch kids running that slow, let alone Major League Baseball who's whipping the ball around 100 miles an hour across the field. Like, you have to pick one or the other. These guys can't do it all. So he's watching that. Normally it's like a seniority play. So the ump behind home plate is usually the seniority guy, maybe the guy at second. But those other guys aren't going to overrule him no matter what happens. So even if the third base ump or whoever else saw and said, no, he was out of the line, the home plate ump's going to stick to his guns. I don't care if he went to the review. How many guys, whenever there's, 20,000 fans, probably not at that game because it was in Pittsburgh, maybe 1,000 fans were there, and they were watching him go to the monitor or whatever he did, and you review it, and even the guy, it just doesn't make any sense. They're not going to overturn the call. They're going to state that no, there's no explicit rules. They said the Buster Posey rule doesn't come into play because he wasn't blocking the home plate. It was a force out. But they also said the interference second base rule doesn't come into play because that is mainly for second base and not home plate. But so you're kind of just skirting the rules here, MLB. You're picking and choosing. Okay, that was a clear intent to hurt the guy. And just some basic math for people, because some people were arguing with me that he was inside, he could have touched home plate. Batter's box is 6 feet long. The base is about right in the middle of that, so that's 3 feet. He was out in the dirt in front of that, another foot or two. If he's probably a 6 foot man, Rizzo, I'm guessing. So he can stretch 6 foot, even though he's in there. He's only 6 feet away from home plate. Out of the baseline, yes, he was in the infield grass running down the line. He slides, you could still touch home plate with his hand. I think that's what the announcers were saying on the review. Oh, he still was able to climb over home plate or something, they said. And that's why. Because he slid into him. When he hits him, he kind of rolls. Anyone can roll a couple feet. He's already a 6 foot man. All he has to do is kind of just roll his body over and he's touching home plate with his hand. You could see he was out in front. So he's 6 feet away from the bag. Anyone laying down like a slide would get you is going to cover that distance. But it was intent. He was out in front. He slid late right into his leg. It wasn't even a slide because his legs were not extended. And guess why he didn't slide head first? Yeah, because he was trying to hurt the dude. I mean, he wasn't going to touch home plate with his feet. And if you're sliding feet first into home plate, you're usually sliding on the back side of the plate so he can't tag you. He was going for intent to hit the catcher defenseless. It's different than a second plate ball because of the way the catcher is positioned, and he has to turn his back to throw to first base. On a second place ball, when you're throwing the ball from second, you're turning towards the runner so you can see him. When you're turning to throw the ball to first base from catcher, you are turning away from the runner. You cannot see him. So Major League Baseball finally came up today and said that they had the wrong call. But it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help anybody. They're not going to suspend him, I don't think. And even then, you're not going to go ahead and put a rule in place. So all they're doing is kind of apologizing that they got it wrong. And that's what drives me nuts. Nothing happened. They didn't have the balls to call it on the field. And sports is going this direction. And I'm going to get a headache just thinking of how many times this is going to happen in the NFL this season. A big defensive back makes a hit, but he's a name. So they'll roll the safe on the field. Oh, well, his helmet wasn't down or the receiver turned. There's always going to be a reason why they can't get the call right. And I think Major League Baseball fans were outraged. Besides Cub fans, for some reason, they thought Joe Madden was doing fine. But that was crazy to me. And that's where I think we're at. I think fans are going to see it and they're going to start tuning out. I mean, it's probably already happened across other sports. NFL's ratings are dropping. But you just don't want to see these manufactured things. If a fan at home can see that it was a Bush League slide and he was trying to hurt the guy, no one wants to see their player get hurt. If I take my kid and that's their favorite player, the catcher, and they have to watch a dirty play like that, it's going to turn them off from the game. So that's all I had. It was clear that it was dirty. You could look at the rules. I tried to explain it the best I could for people that haven't played baseball or may not watch a lot of baseball. He turned his back. When you're turning the double play at home, you're turning your back to the runner. It's different from second base because the second baseman always, or the shortstop, always has to turn and face the runner to make the double play from second. So it's basically the mirrored opposites. He was defenseless. It's kind of just like hitting a defenseless guy in football. In football, there would be all kind of riots against it, concussions, but in baseball, that was just to play the game. Doesn't matter if he was defenseless and he has those weird shin guards on that's not going to make his leg as flexible, and you're basically rolling up on it, and it's probably going to snap in a weird position. I'm just glad he wasn't seriously hurt. So, anything else you guys want to add on? You can expand. Whatever, hop in.
No, pretty much you nailed it, Father Richie. So, I mean, you got everything, So, I mean, it is what it is. Money still matters in baseball. That's all I'm going to say. And if you're a bigger crybaby, usually you get more calls your way. See Joe Madden pretty much every game. I can't stand him as a manager. So, that and his arrogance, too. But even if you watch the clip afterwards, the third base coach is like a high five Rizzo in the dugout. Great job. So, I mean, after the inning. So, I mean, whatever. I mean, but don't come crying when you get somebody taken out then. Don't cry because you didn't cry here. So don't cry if somebody takes out Baez later in the season.
But it's kudos to them because they knew where the rule was. They knew that the league wasn't going to do anything about it. And it guaranteed that they were going to pick up that divisional matchup. So, I mean, for what it's worth, if you know that no one's going to do anything about it, well, take your swing. Take down a division rival and do your thing. But I think it's a tough pill to swallow because for as much as the different leagues have been trying to push team safety and player safety and this and that, to have your back completely turned and have your leg rolled up on, you're absolutely right, Richie. It's the same kind of play in football season. You're called a thug and you're run out of the league.
Yeah, that's the thing that everyone was saying. It's just like a double play at second base when it's not. It's totally different. That just shows people are they don't know sports. They don't know what they're talking about. And I'll even one up you here. Rizzo plays first base. So what if tomorrow or today a Pirate would have got a hit, ran into first base when he extends, just tramps on the back of his leg? What would have happened? They couldn't have said they did it on purpose because it's the exact same thing. He could have said, I was just hustling hard. I was trying to beat out the play. His leg was there. So if Rizzo's going to do that bullshit, that's what I would have liked to see from the Pirates. Someone have his back, slide into him at first base. It's not illegal to slide into first base. I would have had all 9 guys today. You get a hit, you're running the first base, you're sliding into his leg every single play until what? They're going to eject the whole team? They can't do that. And it's not illegal to slide in the first base. So that's exactly what I would have done as a manager and as a fan. It just shows you the culture around the Pirates. They don't want to win. They don't want to protect their guys. Nothing really happened from the Pirates side. They didn't. Well, Rick, you were saying that before the show, me and Rick were getting heated about this, but they didn't contest it. Or what could they have done? They could have appealed it. What was the word you're throwing around?
Protest. They could do the protest, which is a big letter P by the home plate umpire. So that way it gets logged in with the official score has to log it in at that time frame that there's an official protest because of that play.
But they didn't do it. And it just goes back and shows you. So you can't have one play be clean and the other not be clean. Rizzo was saying it was a play, whatever. Slide in the first base. Do that. That's what I would say. Maybe someone else will see that play, and that's what will happen. But if you're going to play that way, you know it's dirty. You know how many times I've slid into a catcher, turning two? Never. The guy you would just run right by him, if anything, because you know you're out. And it doesn't matter. You're not trying to win. You're not going to break up. I mean, he messed up the throw, yes, but the catcher, the throw was perfect. The catcher stepped out far enough away from the base to make the throw that it shouldn't even have been an issue. And I'm embarrassed that we're talking about it because that just shows how far Major League Baseball is out of touch and why they can't have real fans, and they're going to die. They're going to die the same death that boxing has died and horse racing has died, where it's the old guard, and I played baseball, so I have a passion for it, but it's the old guard. They're not letting it go. They're choking it to death. They're choking it to death. And that's what you're watching. That's what you're watching. So we'll just be watching whenever football will take over. Football and basketball will just be year-round sports. Maybe NHL, because baseball is going to die. Unless they fix it. Hold on one.
Thinking back to something Rick said earlier, talking about the umpires and missing calls, when baseball brought in the instant replay, I think that it took the heat off of the umpires because now they don't necessarily have to get the call right on the field. They just have to make the safe call so that then they can go to the booth and have the booth be the one to report on what they need to do to make the call right or wrong. So even when you look at the Rizzo play, for as bad as it was on the replay, it's not on the umpires at the game. It's on the people, that are handling the instant replay that should be able to say that's an issue. And for them not to do it is just a reflection of like what you said with the old guard and wanting to preserve some of the aggressiveness of the game.
Yeah, it's not even really aggressiveness. I just don't know. They have to decide. They have to either go all in and have computerized refs or umps, or they have to have like guys on the field that are figureheads that just call outs and whatever. And they just need to have a guy in the booth that calls every play. Radio's down. I don't even care if they have a guy behind the plate doing balls and strikes. Use that. But you don't need the guys on the bases anymore. I mean, they get in the way. Same thing for hockey. And I'll use this as a transition into the NHL finals. Hockey is getting too bad or too fast to the point where how many times am I going to see a ref get hit down by the net with either the puck or a skating player that disrupts play? Why have that guy there? Why have that guy there? And same for baseball. Why have these guys on the field when they're not going to be able to get the calls right? Let's say even baseball will be conservative. Let's say they get it right 75% of the time. You can have a guy just sitting there with the computer making sure that it's right. It's not like other sports, baseball. You can slow-mo and see if the guy's safe or not. Most of the times, everyone in the stands know it's safe. There's not that many bang-bang plays that you need a guy on the field every time saying that he's safe. You could just have an announcer in the booth on the loudspeaker say it so that everyone can hear it. Same with hockey. Just put the guys, if you're watching the offsides or icing calls, just put guys right outside the rink. I was trying to figure out where they could stand. You could have him in the tunnel maybe, but you could even just have a seat where he's down kind of by the ice up in the air. They have that line up in the air. You can just have a top down.
You can stand with Paul McGuire in his little box.
Yeah, just stand there and make the call. Because that's what I see in the finals. Rick was talking about swallowing the whistles, and this affects both the NHL and the NBA to the point where officials can swing the games, especially in hockey and NBA, because in hockey, one whistle can lead to a power play that can flip the game right on its head. And same with the NBA. You give one team a couple extra free throws down the stretch, you stop a run by calling a foul that's ticky-tack, and that's what I'm watching when I'm watching the playoffs in these two sports. And it's going to be, man, when gambling starts to get legal in every state, it's really going to swing to the big markets. I guarantee it. I hate to say it. You can see it affect baseball. But, I mean, Vegas right now, I don't know. I had said earlier, and I had someone message me about Ovechkin. As a Penguins fan, it doesn't matter to me who wins. I'm not invested. I'm not going to be mad whenever either team wins. They're not like, I wouldn't consider the Capitals, I know they're a rival to the Penguins, but whenever you beat them every year, what was the series record? It was like 8-1 or something crazy head to head going into this year. That's not a rival. So it's not like, yeah, Ovechkin and Crosby are rivals, but I'm not Crosby. So it's not like I'm the one out there playing against him. My thinking behind it was Ovechkin gets this cup. Maybe he'll, like, the heat will die down a little bit. There'll be that boiling rivalry between the Penguins, but then it will help boost the Penguins up. They'll play with a little bit more urgency because the Capitals showed that the last two series. Capitals showed that they wanted to play. That Game 7 against Tampa Bay, they utterly destroyed them. They want to win the cup, and they want to put it together. They're playing with more aggression than the Penguins did all playoffs. So I'm a little surprised that Vegas came out and played as well as they did that first game. I'm not going to lie. I like Vegas' chances. You really can't. Whenever you have a goaltender that's played in so many finals games, that's a big boost. So it's looking like Vegas is going to take the series. It'll probably be at least, 6 games? I would be surprised if they took it in 5 or 4. I mean, they could still get the sweep. It's not off the table. But I would say Vegas in 6, just after watching the first game. Whenever you can offset the Caps' firepower with more firepower of your own and a Stanley Cup winning goalie, that's a recipe for success. So that's my end to those rants. What do you guys think? Did you guys watching the NHL stuff?
Good, Rick.
I agree with Vegas in 6. I think you want to get this series in many games. I think you do want to see Vegas win. You want to hear the first expansion team winning ever. I mean, they had a lot of things go right in that draft. They got a lot of good players real quick off the top. And they did some good trades and free agent signings. So, I mean, you got to give Vegas credit for what they're doing. I think I still don't like Washington's defense. I think they're too old and too slow. But, I mean, Holtby's got to play 100 times better game than he did in Game 1 for them to do good. They live and die by how Holtby does. I mean, as long as he's doing fine, they're good. So, but I think it's them in 6 easily. So,
Matt,
I think there's a possibility that the Caps can do it, but they just need to draw penalties, and they need to get into power play situations. I think that was one of the things that really helped them in their series versus Pittsburgh, was that they were able to capitalize on some of those penalties, take advantage of the power play, and get in goals quickly in some of those games. I think if they want to do that, maybe get a couple extra pucks on Fleury. That seemed to be the recipe that where Fleury would get rattled in games, is taking a lot of shots directly to him and not really having the defense there to keep pucks clear from him.
Yeah, I'm thinking, who has the home ice? Is it the Capitals? I think
Vegas.
It's Vegas. So
Vegas had the better record.
That could swing it to be over in Game 5. The Capitals would have to win. Yeah, I think Vegas can get one on the road, but we'll see, because if they get all 3 at home and then steal one on the road, that's 5. So that could swing it. Google has a stupid home and away upside down on their stupid schedule. So every time I look, it throws me. I was thinking Capitals were at home, but I knew that didn't make sense in my head, unless they did some weird trickery on me, like Major League Baseball used to do, where whoever wins the All-Star game or something dumb gets home ice advantage in the playoffs. So I just wanted to check that. So that could swing mine 5. And if it does go 7, I mean, the Capitals' best chance, they have to try to win in 6. You can't go 7 back to Vegas. And I just don't think they have enough to get it done. But we'll see. I don't want to spend too much time on these because it's a young series. We're going to be hitting these hard next week. The last one, NBA Finals. Celtics really tried to push LeBron off. I was very impressed with how the Celtics played. But he's still king. And I don't think he has enough in these finals. Just looking at it, they have to play Golden State. I think the Chris Paul injury really hurt the Rockets last night. And I feel bad for him. You have a guy who's been close. He was kind of a laughingstock out at LA with the Clippers. Everyone thought there was one year, I think, I was talking to a buddy today, where they looked like they had a clear path to the finals, and they just choked. I forget what year it was. And I thought that was going to be his legacy. So he comes to Houston. He has a new career. He's back out with Harden. They're meshing well, and they get so close to have him have a hamstring injury, and then they lose it in 7. Has to be tough, and I feel bad for him. But it's going to be something where, is this series going to have interest? Is this 4 years in a row that these teams are playing in the finals?
I think.
The same exact matchup. And I think it has been trending down. So you're looking at it, LeBron's team looks worse than ever. Kevin Love he definitely has a concussion. And I hate how they said concussion-like symptoms. No, the dude has a concussion. He crushed his head. He could barely stand. They showed him in the hallway. He looked like he was going to pass out and throw up. And if that was the NFL, the TV guys would have been talking about it the whole time. Instead, they were like, wow, I wonder if Love's going to come back in. Let's check on him. He's still in the tunnel, so he could still come back in. He looked like he was going to pass out in the tunnel. If that was the NFL and they had a guy that hit his head and he was standing in the tunnel, there would have been so much outrage. It just shows the double standard for some of these leagues. ABC knew that ESPN, ABC, the same company, They knew that Kevin Love is a key piece. You can't put him in the concussion protocol because it looks like he might not clear in time for the finals. I don't know. They still said he's under monitor, but the fact that they never said he had a concussion, I guarantee they did that just to clear him to play. And the guy already said he had mental health issues, so it can't be good for him. But that's my thoughts. Is it going to be a boring series? Check back in next week. We'll see once they play a couple games. We'll get into NHL Finals and NBA Finals. You guys have anything else you want to add?
I do think that the LeBron chain, it's finally going to be stopped. I think he's been carrying and dragging the Cavs through these playoffs. I don't think he has enough in the tank. I think with Golden State and all the weapons that they have, I think they'll wear them down and it'll be done quickly. I think when at the trade deadline, when the Cavs traded half the team away and still just kept plugging along with what LeBron wanted, I think that was really a troubling sign for them. That's why you're seeing them trending downward.
Yeah, it was it reminded me of watching the Celtics. They had a chance, and instead of feeding the ball to Horford or going inside like they did against the Sixers, they started settling for 3-point shots, and LeBron was hitting his contested shots. You can't go shot for shot with an amazing player like that, one of the best in the leagues, MVPs, whatever, all-time great. You can't go shot for shot with them with arguably two of your best guys on the bench of injuries, season-ending injuries. But he did look tired. And Matt, I'll raise the question. What do you think is going to happen with him? Do you think he goes to Philadelphia next year or elsewhere?
I think that would be a scenario that makes sense. For a player that's late in his career, he could go to Philly and he doesn't have to be – he's going to be the star, but he doesn't have to be. He has other players there that he can almost be in a mentor type role. He can potentially take some minutes off. I think if he goes with the Sixers, because they have the talents there, he would just be the final piece to really give them the depth that I think that you need to make a playoff run. Personally, I would like to see them do it without him because I think that they could get it done. I mean, watching them go toe-to-toe with the Celts, and for as young as they were, I think they're only going to get better. They need some level of a little bit more veteran leadership, but I don't know if bringing LeBron James in is the answer, just because of all of the circus that he brings with him. I think that it would take away if he were to leave and go to Philly.
Well, you're looking at it too. Where else is he going to go? I mean, he could go to Houston. Houston already has the pieces. Is that going to be enough? I mean, he's friends with Chris Paul. I think they tried to pull him in on one of their super teams or whatever. He could also land in a team like Detroit that's young, have Blake Griffin, some other guys that can battle down low to take pressure off him. He just really needs to look and see where does he want to play. Another thing that I thought of that not a lot of people I don't think have mentioned is Carmelo Anthony's out, or at least looks like he's on the outs at Oklahoma City. So if LeBron brought him into Cleveland, would that revive him? Getting another guy that can take over games, give him a break. He's really never had that guy. You could say Dwayne Wade, possibly, but not the same way LeBron did. Chris Bosh couldn't control the game down low. LeBron can take the low post guys and stretch the floor with them. But at this point, he just needs to extend his career. He needs to sit, save minutes. I don't think the 4 seed really mattered. Everyone knew the Cavs were pretty much the 1 seed. Even if it didn't say it and they didn't get home court advantage. He won in Boston, which is tough. And I thought there was a good chance Boston might be able to hold him off. But number 1. He's number 1 until they knock him off. You can't make the finals that many years in a row basically by yourself. J.R. Smith threw up how many dumb threes that every time he shot I was cheering because I was like, yeah, that's a miss. And the one guy, George Hill was really carrying the team for second minutes when LeBron would kind of step away and, get his rest on the court. George Hill stepped up, hit some big shots, and I think that was the reason why they won. If they didn't have him, I think LeBron's sitting at home. And next year, he needs to find some young guys like that that can push the team. Rick, you have any thoughts on the NBA?
I don't watch it much, but I don't like the comments that LeBron James has no all-stars on his team. He's doing this all by himself. Kevin Love's an all-star.
Kevin
J.R.
Love's
Smith
awesome.
was an all-star. I'm tired of that. I mean, here's the thing. It's the LeBron James people building up LeBron James against the Jordan people. I mean, Jordan made guys good. I mean, Bill Cartwright was, 45 years old, and his fat ass got down the court. I mean, LeBron James needs to trade guys in and out and pick his team and pick his players. You think Jordan was doing that? Do you think Jordan's like, yes, Bill Cartwright's 54 years old. Please get him and go get me the Australian Luke Longley, who is like 300 pounds and Australian. And while you're at it, there's this guy over in Europe named Tony Kukoc. Get him too, because he can almost play. I mean, tired of it. It's going to be 7 games. It's the NBA. ESPN's probably going to have a stroke because they're going to have 7 games. Charles Barkley and Kenny Smith will challenge each other to different contests and bore me to death. And it'll probably be a reading contest or whether Shaq could eat hot chips or something along those lines. Because, A, they have nothing to talk about. They've been talking about this for 4 years. I mean, I actually believe the conspiracy theorists who actually say the NBA is rigged. That's why Houston lost the terrible calls, because they needed LeBron against Curry because they need ratings, because people don't know the Houston guys as good enough as they do the Golden State guys. And we need the series to go 2-2 so next year they could play again for the 5th time and decide who's the greatest. I mean, I've heard that rumor, and I believe that one. I'm just tired of it. Not going to watch any of it. I got better things to do with my time. I mean, my neighbor's cutting is cutting his grass with a riding lawnmower. It's actually very interesting compared to the NBA playoffs.
I agree with your point on his roster. I saw a couple of people commenting that the Celtics lost to a team that would only have had 12 wins without LeBron. But that's crazy talk, because they have Kevin Love, and he was doing well without LeBron by himself on a team with no other help before he came to LeBron in Cleveland. So you have that. You have J.R. Smith. You have George Hill. These are guys that are winning elsewhere. He built the team. And don't forget, he also had D. Wade on this team and Derrick Rose. Other all-stars that then he kind of traded and pushed off because he's player GM, player coach. Tyronn Lue's not calling any plays. So you're looking at that, and he's making all the decisions. No wonder he's tired. He's the whole thing. He's the whole package. He walked right by the owner after the game on Sunday. And that's the only reason that made me think that he could possibly leave. As for the ratings things, Rick, I did see that the Star Wars that premiered, the Han Solo movie, which I was disappointed they even thought of making, the ratings were so bad that Disney lost some revenue that they had projected. And I think the CEO, could have been another guy for him, but he said, he's like, we'll have to add in our Game 7s from the NBA playoffs and to see if our revenue's matching. We might be ahead of where we thought we were going to be. So he was already thinking about these Game 7s, and he's already thinking about potentially having another Game 7 in the finals to help boost the revenue from a movie that kind of bombed over Memorial Day weekend, which was dumb. Because, and this isn't sports, but they had the Star Wars thing every Christmas. You can't oversaturate, just like the Marvel things. Just like you can't oversaturate with LeBron talk every single day. Ratings are bound to drop. Because you can only hear the same argument, LeBron versus Jordan, so many times before you go nuts. So, that's what I meant in the show on. Go around the horn. Matt, you have anything to end the show on?
Just interesting to see reactions from the league on the whole anthem protests and being on the sidelines and what have you. I guess can't wait for it to be back to just football and leaving the politics out.
Yeah, and people that were knocking me, because I've had some people comment directly to me about Jed York and my harsh comments on him, probably in football season last year. I don't even remember what I said. But I do know that he was the first one to come out after they had the vote or whatever, and then he was the one that leaked that they didn't have a vote, or that he didn't even vote, he abstained or whatever. He was like, Oh yeah, we kind of had a vote, but I definitely was not a part of those discussions. Like, hey, asshat, way to look out for yourself. If you were going to do that, why don't you speak up, at the meetings instead of going out of your way? I probably because I was ripping on him about the Harbaugh, the way he handled the Harbaugh thing going to the press. This is another proof point right there. I already said it. People will call me liar or whatever. This is another thing. That's what the guy does. He doesn't speak up, doesn't handle things in a mature way, and that's why the 49ers are run like a pile of dog shit. That's why they'll never win. I don't care how good Garoppolo is. Garoppolo would have to play out of his mind to win a championship at San Francisco. And York, prove me wrong. Because how any other coaches, any other players, they see that statement for you, why would they even want to coach for you? Because they know you don't got their back. You were right to the press after the meeting. And then what happened? Then every other owner had to kind of come out and make a statement about, yeah, there wasn't really a vote and all this other stuff. Just play football. If you wanted that to be a point, York, instead of getting your name out there, because it was like an hour after that vote came out, and it was right after our show. It was like the next morning. I saw it. And then the very first thing, Jed York, 49ers CEO, says, blah, blah, blah. He had nothing to do with this. So he came right out, tried to save himself. Why don't you speak up over the past year when fans were dropping the league? Where were you then, Jed? That's what I wanted to add on that. Thanks, Matt, for reminding me. Because he came out and people were ripping on me about my take on him. How do you have proof? This is my proof. He does it every single time. It doesn't help the game. If you want to help the game, help the game. Speak up. Why didn't you get together with Kaepernick? He was on your goddamn team. It's not like it was his team that started the whole mess. And then he's the one keeping it going. I think he probably likes the drama. Must be a San Francisco thing. Rick, you have anything to add? Or end the show on, I mean?
I do want to say Jimmy Garoppolo did play very good at the end of the year. I mean, he was probably one of your bright spots at the end of the year. He did play very well. I do want to give him credit there. So I also want to say that this week coming out in Tops, the minor league set, which is a pro debut set, one of my good friends, Susie Melnick, finally gets her card for all her years. Never missed a minor league game in Altoona Curve. So she never missed a game until her passing away. She gets a card commemorating her year. So I want to give that. They also put some other weird cards to the year, so I'm going to throw up some right now. This is actually the dirt from Pensacola Blue Wahoos. And also I have part of the uniform from Altoona Curve as well from their mascot. So they put some weird cards in every year, so definitely check that out. So I actually have a base from it's minor leagues, so. But no, it's Columbus.
Wait, you kind of cut out there, Rick. What were you saying? What did you have? So, the base?
The base. It's part of the base.
From what?
So this has the dirt. Instead of the dirt, it's the base.
I'm just trying to help out because you're holding up a lot of stuff, and most of our listeners just download the show on audio.
Okay.
I'm trying to help out.
Sorry.
That's why I'm laughing over here because Rick, for people that are listening at home, Rick's holding up a bunch of baseball cards to the camera. So go to our YouTube if you want to see. Just scroll to the end of the video so you can see what he's talking about. So I
brought props this week. I'm like Carrot Top. I also want to say thank you to the Harrisburg Senders as well. So for those of you who are not looking, me and Mrs. Rick spent a weekend in Harrisburg. So we got our nice Steven Strasburg bobblehead. So
I think a picture of that is on our Instagram.
That is on the Instagram. Also, the video you can catch as well there too. Mrs. Rick and I had a great time, so we got to meet Daniel Murphy as well, so do want to say that, and thank you for Mrs. Rick putting up with me for a whole weekend as well there too. And also, I noticed one thing in minor league baseball this season. They have the lamest theme musics to come out to at games. Lamest music. So I'm going to give $50 of my own money if one of the minor league players will do it. I'm going to put this up on Instagram. Hashtag MILB Challenge. I challenge you to come and do better music than the crap I've seen. So I actually want you, if you're going to choose crap, I'm going to let you choose other crappy music too. So if you pick Tone Loc's Funky Cool Medina, I'll be very happy. I will give you $50
I feel like they play that. I feel like I've heard that before though. Or maybe it's Wild Thing.
In the minor leagues, though?
I don't know. I feel like I heard that at the Curve before.
No, and I will also another song. I'm going to give 3 songs. Another one,
please do.
Rusted Root, Ecstasy. I want that song because all the steel drums and guitars. I just think it would be absolutely awful to hear that, but great because I love that song. Third song, Henry Rollins. I want to hear Liar at a game. I just think it'd be great, and I think it would scare all of the geriatric people that come out there.
Rick, if I was going to guess 3 songs and put them together, you could even put a list of 10 songs. I never would have guessed those 3 would have been your pick for good music.
Those are my 3. I may change them throughout the year, but I'm gonna put it up on my for my hashtag again MILB challenge. $50. If a player changes it, all I need is the video clip proving that you actually came out to Rusted Roots Ecstasy, Tone Loc's Funky Cold Medina, or Henry Rollins' Liar.
Rick,
$50.
What would you... Let me just ask for the listeners out there, what do you hope to accomplish by them coming out? Would these songs excite you?
No, they don't excite me. I just figure if you're going to come out the crappy songs, those are 3 ones I would love to hear. And I think Liar would just scare people. I mean, just not scare, just like kind of freak them out. Like, why is this guy constantly yelling at me, Henry Rollins?
I don't know. I'm checking out. This show's too long. Matt, do you have anything else to add to follow that up?
How do you follow that up? Just cut it. We'll see you next week.
Look for that. What'd you say it was? MILB challenge?
I'm going to do it. MILB challenge to minor leagues.
Yes, please.
I'm going for ratings, Richie. I'm going for fans on Twitter like Matt gets all those fans. I want fans too.
Yes, please do. Look for that. Follow us on Twitter, S-Bound Sports. And make sure you subscribe to the show and tell your friends, and we will see you next week.